thanking you for joining us this evening so that we can have our very first virtual town hall for Haisla Nation Council. To start out, I would like to start out by introducing the pandemic team. We will start with Eric and then go around the room. So.
Eric, what's up? Happy to be here and listening to you.
Laura Howell.
Chief Operating Officer.
Eliza Bishop, Executive Assistant to the COO.
Kevin Stewart, Counselor.
Arthur Renwick, Deputy Chief.
Good evening, Jason Major, CEO.
Hello, Lucille Harms, Home Community Care Coordinator.
Tracy Ross, Lands Manager.
Hi, I'm Doris Fraser. I'm the Finance Manager with Haisla.
David.
David McAdams, Human Resource Director.
Colin. Is Colin on with us? No? Oh, I see his name there. So,
Yeah, Colin Lake works.
is there anybody else online that's a part of our daily pandemic team calls? Cameron.
Cameron Orr here, Communications Coordinator.
Collins.
All right, and missing from our attendees list tonight, we have Tony Brady, who is the Director of Economic Development, and Andrew Bolton, who is the Fire Services Coordinator, and Sherry Smith, who is our Community Development Manager. I can't see that last name.
Colin.
Okay, so that is our Haisla Nation Council pandemic team. First, we wanted to do a high-level information session for our members in terms of what has happened, what has occurred in the community. Also, before I move on, for those that cannot see or can see, we also have our program managers in attendance with us this evening via Zoom, and council members. So what we wanted, the intention of this meeting, and to have a conversation, open conversation with our membership, is that exact communication around having a open dialogue and address any concerns that any membership may have in regards to what has occurred and what the planning for the future may look like. So we've had a few questions come in to our pandemic team, but we felt it was necessary that we be in front of our membership to have that ability for areas of concern to be addressed, and that we are here for our membership. So a part of one of the questions that was asked was in regards to our pandemic team, what are our roles and responsibilities? And essentially the roles and responsibilities are appointed as to in any sense, precautionary steps in order to address issues that our community is facing, and collectively as a team make the decisions what is in the best interest of the nation. We utilize and rely on our staff's input, along with taking guidance from the provincial health officer. Provincial health officer in Dr. Bonnie Henry, in implementing protective measures for our community and operating our organization, but essentially that administration and of programs to our community members. So as we've gone through the timelines, we've initially had started the closure of our offices on March 16th. From there, we worked to implement processes that would allow the technology to be able to support us in our ability to work together, still cohesively making those decisions on behalf of the pandemic team and the nation. Our first pandemic at the beginning of this was essential that we met every day. So the team that you see here and the ones that I mentioned that aren't in attendance with us tonight, we're meeting on a daily basis in order to address the immediate concerns and set up necessary precautions that we felt were important, such as the restricted access point that we see into our community. There were other decisions that were made in terms of the food and supplies that community would require. I was hearing a lot of feedback around shortages in our area, which was a huge concern when it comes to our elders and our most vulnerable people. So the decision from the pandemic team was to reach out to our local grocery stores in order to work in partnership and to have an emergency supply of food in case our members required it. So we have taken those precautions into factor, but also giving the feedback and relaying the messages from our perspective of what is in the best interest of our people, relaying the messages that are consistent with the provincial guidelines and recommendations. A part of this weekly daily calls, we were actually invited by the fire services manager for the district of Kitimat, Trent Bossance, to participate in essentially a shareholder discussion where we were attending virtually every other day, representatives from this table having discussions externally with shareholders such as LNG Canada, Rio Tinto, Coastal GasLink, Civio, Northern Health Authority participates on those calls, along with Horizon North and any other camps that are in Kitimat. And these discussions definitely established a partnership as to how each of our organizations and each of our communities were operating and how we could be consistent in our messaging to our communities, but also how industry was operating with the concern of the fly in, fly out, and having people come to Kitimat for employment. Those calls and just like our pandemic team, as we started to situate ourselves and have more of a routine that was becoming, I want to describe the new normal, we actually went from an everyday call of an action list item that each of us follow on a daily basis as essentially our agenda in the calls, that we are now taking the calls every other day. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday was intentionally optional, but we continue to have those discussions and calls as situations rise in our community and things change in our province. Like that call, the calls that we have with the local shareholders, those have essentially cut back to every other week as well. And besides those types of conversations that we have as a collective, we have regular calls with LNG Canada representatives as well as Rio Tinto representatives on what they're planning or preparing for in the future, so that we're aware and are able to communicate any types of information that we can to our community to ensure that your concerns, your areas that you feel is necessary for the safety of our community are addressed. And any type of communication that we have from any one of us sitting in this room or council, we hear the concerns, we have them addressed in accordance to any one of those calls, and to be able to have those established relationships with those entities, I think is imperative throughout this pandemic, and that the relationship there of having, if it's a concern around fly in, fly out, that those concerns are addressed in the manner that the pandemic team can discuss and then put out communication in accordance with whatever the concerns may be. I'm going to take a breather and allow myself to breathe a bit. I'm going to ask Kevin or Arthur if you have anything to add.
Sure. Thanks, Crystal. I'll just be brief. It's been very challenging and rewarding, to say the least, in terms of trying to deal with this pandemic that's affecting the whole world. I think we have a very good team in place right from the get-go in terms of trying to address the safety of our membership. And I just want to express my gratitude to everyone that was involved to help our membership be safe. We're still not out of the woods yet in terms of this. I just heard on the news tonight that the federal health minister is recommending all Canadians wear face masks moving forward. So I think we have to follow through with that. Our membership need to be informed that the virus isn't going anywhere yet. It's slowly, the bend is going down slowly in some provinces like ours, but not all provinces are getting the downward bend yet. We've worked on the short-term plans when we first started meeting on March 18th as a team. On March 18th, we had an extraordinary meeting to discuss what the pandemic team was working on and other ways of helping our membership. And that's when council decided to do the pandemic payment of $1,000, and then we followed up with another payment of $750. So it is my hope that these payments helped our members stockpile the foods and necessities that they needed in terms of preparing for worst case scenario, because we didn't really know which way this pandemic was going to go. So I'm hoping that these payments were very helpful for our members. We were very concerned about the people that were on social assistance, the elders, and the vulnerable. Those are the ones that we were very worried about the most, and we made sure that there was additional help for them from the departments in our organization. So I hope they're all doing okay. Nothing's perfect. We're trying to do the best we can for everyone. We're making mistakes, but we're learning from them. And that's moving forward. I hope we don't make any more mistakes, but that's how we learn as an organization. I'll leave it at that for a while.
So we had a few questions asked. One being the roles and responsibilities of the pandemic team. There, we have in place a pandemic plan that we actually initiated the pandemic planning process and actually appointed the team members here. That pandemic plan lays out essentially what measures we need to take into consideration, who the point of contacts are in the communications team. And like Kevin said, this team has done a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of effort. And I'm speaking for myself, but I can probably relate to everybody in this room. A lot of sleepless nights in terms of the worry and the anxiety around what we were facing. And the fact that we did things in such a short amount of time and were able to make those decisions in the best interest of our people, as always, that, there were a lot of mistakes, but we've worked through each of them and addressed them accordingly. Another question was to be better prepared for our community entrance point and protect the health and safety aspect of our community members during this pandemic. Can you set a time and a directive that our community members who may be out of the area because they are comfortable enough to venture off for a family getaway within the summer months And could you not set guidelines to continue the social distancing, let's say August 30th or earlier, and everyone within our reserve should be back in and on reserve only and no more visits. So as we were explaining around the roles and responsibilities portion of this question, you know, we have been able to implement measures that ensure the protection and the safety of our community. And when we implement something such as the restricted access point, that's to ensure that the only people accessing our community were our local residents and our staff. And that was to ensure that we stopped the influx and the overflow of people that potentially may be coming into our community that may have or may not have had COVID. So within those controls and measures that we were able to implement, the rest is essentially guidelines and are put out by a provincial health authority, Bonnie Henry. And all of our communication in what we've been requesting our band members is all abiding by provincial standards and guidelines. The ability for us as a pandemic team and also for council is that we can't enforce and essentially tell a homeowner or people within that house, we cannot force anybody to do anything. We can inform and we can put the protection measures that we do have control over in implementation. Everything that we're doing, and when we took into consideration as to this question, this is, and it would be to practice and do things in the discretion of what you feel is safe for you and your family. If you have members within your household and you have children that you feel vulnerable and you have health issues within your home, you're going to practice a little bit more precautionary measures as you venture and as our world opens up. What we have done and what we have recommended, that if you were to venture and have to go for a medical trip and you have to go to Vancouver for an appointment that is still available to you, that when you return home that you do the self-isolation for the 14 days, so that while you're having to venture out into the world, that you're taking the necessary precautions when you return to the community, that you're keeping your family safe, and that we're more beyond that our community is safe. So those are the measures that we're recommending that we maintain. And I'll let Lucille, if I've missed anything, or anybody else for that matter, if I've missed anything within those types of messaging and communication to our members, if there's anything that you want to add.
Thank you, Crystal. I just want to say that this team of people that are working for the nation have been striving and diligently meeting, like you've already heard, in order to help protect the people. And we can only do so much. It really comes down to individuals, and we can't police human behavior because people are going to make their own choices and their own decisions. And all you can do is the best possible, as much as possible. I heard one physician who acquired COVID, and that's what he kept saying: do as much as possible, do as best as possible, do as best as possible, because you can only just do so much. So it's remembering that, and it's hard not to judge other people when you see their behavior. And I'm going to be very honest that I've been spending a lot of weeks now being very angry and frustrated. My coworkers will attest to that, and it's not professional of me, but out of my own worries for the people. I know that's where it was stemming from. So it's just remembering and being patient with those people within our community who are very scared. We have people who have comorbidities, they have multiple diseases. They might not just have diabetes, they have kidney disease, they have cancer, they got all these multiple diseases all within one human being. And it's remembering that, and their family and them are very scared. So when they see people out there saying this is all conspiracy or it's not going to happen to me, so who cares, and they go do whatever they want to do, that's okay. Go out and do whatever you want to do, but distance yourself from all the rest of the people. I would suggest you do that to protect them. And whether it is a conspiracy or not, the fact is we don't even need to discuss that at this point because COVID is real and it is here. And we can leave that to the researchers later on. They can figure it out and we don't need to deal with that today. And it's just knowing that we need to protect each other as best we can and be patient and understanding of that, because I know there's people who've been staying at home for quite a few weeks already and are now just venturing out, and they're very scared and they're very uncertain and worried. So just remembering that even though you might feel okay within yourself, other people aren't, and it's just acknowledging that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Just want to expand on that. Lucille brought up a good point. I don't know if I'm just talking to the whole team, but patience is what Bonnie Henry's been preaching from the get-go. Be patient with one another, love one another. We're all going through a lot of stress. So it really rang a bell with me when I heard, I never see Lucille angry, but we are getting angry. We're all getting frustrated at home with our financial situation. People are just having a very hard time now, and I just want to echo what Bonnie says. Be patient and love one another. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Lucille. Is there anybody else that would like to add anything?
Keith has a question.
Questions.
You want me to read it, Crystal? It's regarding the food.
I can't, okay. Can everybody see the questions, Kat?
No, they're in the chat here. Do you want me to read the question out for you?
Oh, sure.
So the question is, in regards to the emergency supplies purchased by HNC, is there any that have best before or expiry dates nearing its timeline?
Oh, it's all non-perishable items.
So when we initially started that discussion, we were concerned about the longevity of what we were purchasing. So majority of the supplies are non-perishable items, so that we had that in mind regarding the duration of how long we would essentially keep those supplies. We have, as a pandemic team, we have had discussions around the potential of the utilization around and how that disbursement to each of our band members would be made. However, in our last discussion, we'd actually talked about this exact issue and the storage of it. However, with the cautionary steps that the province is taking in terms of another spike in the curve, we are holding on to we will be ensuring that they are stored properly and that we are maintaining them in accordance to whatever the supplies are, but we are going to be holding on to them until after the second wave. Thank you for the question.
Thanks for the answer.
Anything? So I think the last question that we had that was sent in advance was large businesses such as LNG Canada and Rio Tinto have their own agendas, yet some of our community members and family members are working for these companies. How do companies better manage fly-ins and the social distances when we head into the second stage of COVID-19? And how do we address this in concern address this concern to the companies as it may impact our community. So as I expressed earlier, we have members of this team that participate in a bi-weekly meeting where all stakeholders are present, so that concerns such as statements made around fly-in and fly-outs have been made to these companies, and the measures and the communication that they're putting out as a part of their responsibility that we can then communicate to our members. LNG Canada is putting into practices for their health and safety for COVID, so they have their own internal measures that each of their contractors are to abide by. The most recent one was issued May 6, 2020. So like us, other entities and companies are making adjustments in accordance to the changes and what we see in our area. We have, like I stated earlier as well, we have the connections with both Rio Tinto and LNG Canada and Coastal GasLink to be able to have our concerns addressed in a timely manner. Rio Tinto, we were on a call earlier with Rio Tinto regarding COVID-19, and they will be issuing their own forms of communication once they've gone through their internal process of establishing that communication to our members. They are taking the necessary precautions where within both of the organizations, they're doing the testing of a daily contact with people that are coming into our community, where they are taking their temperature every single day. They are requesting for an example, within a lunchroom, that if you are flying in and you've just come to Kitimat, you're getting your daily temperature, your temperature taken daily, but also with their procedures around the lunchroom, that they are actually, and I'm just using this word because I haven't come up with a better word in terms of this, but they're actually segregating those fly-in people and not having them in contact or in any space as our local people that they have employed within their organization. So in terms of that protection process, our people would have to be abiding by those necessary precautions and taking those necessary steps to ensure that themselves, along with their families, are protected in that manner. And that requires the social distancing at work, the sanitization of their area or the field or the truck that they're utilizing, but also upon return, that the recommendation, if you were to go out grocery shopping or you're coming from work, is that as soon as you get into your house, you take a shower and put your clothes in the laundry. And those necessary steps in order for self-protection and protection of our families is necessary.
They shut down Tunnel 2. I can't recall if they said they're flying people in and out.
So Rio Tinto made the call up about 8 weeks ago because they were seeing a lot of concern regarding the fly-in, fly-out portion of their pot startup. And they addressed that community concern and made the call internally to stop all fly-in and fly-outs for 8 weeks. There were going to be certain precautions when it came to the T2 tunnel project in Kimano, where they were going to have certain expertise of services provided to that project. So the necessary precautions that they put in place for that portion was they would have, our team, and I'd send that out to council, that they were aware that they were flying, say, 2 employees, they were coming from in this area, they are going to fly and land in Terrace, and they were going to be immediately put on a helicopter and then transported to Kimano. So even though they weren't coming through our communities, we were still being notified when that would happen, and we are still being notified by Rio Tinto when that happens.
So have they started up again?
No.
No. No.
There was something else I forgot that they said about, oh, the reasoning, there was questionings why are they flying them in from Quebec and why can't they use our own workers in BC for the pot replacement project within the plant?
So just before, I know where you're going with this portion, but I think if we put this into the context of both organizations with LNG Canada and Rio Tinto, because they're both in line with that. Some with LNG Canada, they're in the same position, and same with Coastal GasLink would be in that same realm as Rio Tinto would be in that case. Sorry, finished. Were you finished?
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, they're just explaining the reasoning why they're using people from Quebec and Alberta. I think it is important everyone know that that's where their expertise is in terms of the work they do for the pot replacement work that's required to replace old pots within the plant.
So like I just stated, I just wanted to feed on top of what Kevin's saying is in terms of the LNG Canada project, they scaled back their works to a very, they're on the I want to call them the critical path portions of their projects where they have permits issued that are in accordance with the seasons and the times that the work has to take place. In certain circumstances, we cannot find specific training set skills within our region, whether it's Haisla, Kitimat, Terrace, the province, they cannot find that expertise here. They have to fly in that specific skill set to come in and do the job for a certain amount of time. But that does not say without that, they haven't taken the necessary precautions before the person leaves their home and when they arrive in Kitimat. So they're doing the temperature taking, they're doing the self-isolation, they're doing all of that encouragement of what all of us are responsible to do. And then they come into Kitimat and then they do the same thing. The camps have taken their necessary precautions in terms of keeping the people that are within their camps safe as well and have reduced their manpower. I think that it goes into the next statement that I wanted to make in terms of the employment aspect, and Kevin spoke about how the nation has financially contributed, and to note that we're in a position and our nation I'm grateful to be in the position that we are in, to be able to help our members in financial situations that we were able to, but also to be grateful and thankful for the employment opportunities that we still each have. The nation has maintained and we did not want to lay off our people. So with that, I had a few conversations with our management throughout these last tough few weeks that we've seen, and the accountability that I had asked our management and our staff to provide programs and services that address the situation that we are currently in with our members, and the focus on the mental health aspect of our youth to our elders. And the amount of time, effort, and creativity that our staff has been able to come up with the programs I'm absolutely at a loss of words in terms of how our staff have stepped up to provide these types of opportunities for our people in such difficult times. When we think about the mental health aspect, Kevin and Lou alluded to around taking care of one another. And as each of us go through this, and I can speak personally around how tough it's been. Making the adjustments at home, at work, focuses shift, and how we have done things is different. And I believe will remain different. The care and that we have to have for one another, and that empathy in times like this is absolutely critical in terms of how we look after one another. And I honestly commend our staff of your ability to work past and get creative and provide those options for our people so that our people are taken care of. At the same time, I urge all of us as staff members to look out for one another.
Oh. So can I just make a comment? I just want to commend Chief and Council for, especially Crystal. You rose above in this pandemic team as a great leader, and you've shone through everything, and you took the stabs that were given to you with grace, and you looked to the team for what we do next, because we've seen social media, we've seen the attacks on Facebook, and as a team, we solved it. And Crystal, thank you for taking all those stabs from our members. It's not an easy task, but you didn't stand alone. You stood with all of us and you guided us. And I just want to say, social media was our enemy during the onset of this, and we grew from it. And I took over security 2 weeks after it started, and it was already a well-oiled machine. So I got something that was working, employing our members, and it just had rhythm. And I just took it over, and it just continued to what it is today. But now that we're, I don't want to say we're peaking it, but as a member, I don't feel attacked anymore. No one's attacking us saying that we're doing a horrible job. There's critics out there, but they're not bad anymore. But at the onset, it was just like, oh my God, this is horrible. And we're all in that fear. We lived in that fear. We survived that fear, and now we have to continue to get through that fear. And as a nation, as a team, I think we'll get there, because it's not over. We still have to, is this our new normal way of living? This may be our new normal way of working. And we're all adjusting. Even the kids are adjusting. And I feel for our little children, because missing school, missing their friends, that's not normal for them. And as adults, I feel this isn't normal for us to be with our husbands and our kids 24/7. But I just want to say that I felt the attacks for Chief and Council when it was coming on Facebook. And I just commend you guys for doing what you did in the best interest of our nation. Wow.
Thank you, Trace. Is there anybody else?
What's the matter with us husbands?
You couldn't hold that back.
Stand up for us.
So when I talk about the mental health aspect, this is what I'm referring to, a portion of what I'm referring to. So I think, thank you, Tracy. And it is it has been very stressful in terms of navigating this and making decisions and rolling with the punches. They were quick decisions, not quick decisions. There were some lengthy conversations around some decisions, but the quick actions of our staff members and essentially responding to things that were changing literally in hours, within hours. I remember the first 2 weeks of these calls, I couldn't get any more gray hair than I already had. And making those decisions, we've become, like what Tracy called the restricted access point. We've become that very well-oiled machine of making these decisions and changing with the times that were presented to us. And each of us contributed in a manner that we heard concerns in one area, we addressed them immediately. So that teamwork and that ability to want to protect, and with the restricted access point, the initial thought behind that was we have very limited amount of Haisla fluent speakers that are our elders left. So when we come with those types of thought processes and where you make decisions from, and stick to them, it's navigating. And I think we've done that very well as a team and as an organization. When we're talking about, so the changes in the phase 2 stage that the province is at with opening up certain aspects and certain portions of the economy, and the back to work discussions around how the nation is gonna look. We were in discussions today around the state of emergency that was declared and the transitioning back to work. They are two separate decisions in terms of how we do that process. And right now we have a task force that is looking at outside organizations and how they are managing and what procedures they are implementing, what they are doing in our settings in order to make our workspaces safe. Hand sanitizers, Lysol wipes, hands-free faucets. We are looking at having face masks available and all of those PPE available. And then we are addressing the space, the adequate space that we have in each of our buildings and how that rotation or people that are in the places are going to look. So we are starting to look at that and how that will play out within the next couple of weeks to the next month. And as stated, you know, we don't expect things to resume to normal. So how we navigate this, you know, we expect the challenges and we'll address them accordingly as to how we've addressed everything, but we're going to manage bringing back some of our staff slowly. I don't know if that notice about the school. You know, the province has announced that it will be optional for students to return back to school June 1st. Our school is going through the planning phases and we'll be communicating to our members soon regarding our Haisla Community School. So for those that have children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews that are concerned, please look out for those messages that will be coming shortly.
Question. Cameron has a question.
Yeah. So, question is, comment first and then a question. It is nice to have a virtual town hall meeting and be able to see elected chief and council at the table addressing membership. Since HNC is able to send out the link to membership when the meeting begins, will HNC start allowing membership to view council meetings via Microsoft Teams for future meetings? So just trying to see if the link is secure and that it would be members only and so on. So we're just working through that process.
In one of our, and to add on to Jason's message, our response to that is fairly accurate. But on top of that, we actually signed an MOU with TELUS recently, which Cam and Trevor, who are our communications and IT, our staff will be working through that and navigating that website as well. For our membership that are non-local or that would like to access. I believe, Cam, can you please answer the portion that you came in to let us know about what we're potentially going to be doing with this as with that TELUS MOU?
Hi. Yes. So for those listening, this is Cameron, Communications Coordinator. So yeah, we just started working on a process that's going to create basically a video platform. So it's really early in the stages of how it's work and how it's going to come together. So it's a bit of a learning process on this side, but the idea is that events would be able to be broadcast in the future, and there would be ways to figure out how to make it secure just to Haisla members as well. So it's a bit of work in progress, but it is definitely something that's being worked on. Hopefully we'll have something ready pretty soon, next few weeks.
And we're totally excited about that.
It's open for members, council meetings.
Are there any other questions, comments? Is he still receiving emails? Is that an email?
Just for our members that are listening in, I don't think we mentioned it tonight that council contributed 300,000 to this pandemic. And I think it's important that the community knows that. We got had a call with Dr. Jacob Story. What's his role again?
He's the chief medical physician for this whole northern region.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had a call with him a month or so ago, and he was very appreciative of Haisla Nation being one of the first organizations to step forward and lead the way in terms of trying to help address the pandemic by this contribution. So I think it's important that the membership remember that, and I'm thankful that the council supported that. We wanted to do our part to try and minimize the spread of this virus with that contribution. So I think it's, I'll repeat it, but I'm glad we did it.
Thanks, Kev.
Can I just add to that?
Go ahead.
I just want to add to that Dr. Forey, him and the physicians within the Northern Health region were so impressed with Haisla Nation Council making that step towards assisting for specific testing equipment for COVID to the extent that it caused other leaders in BC to come forward and provide those testing equipment. So what we had hoped to target with those funds to support the health and safety of the people, and not only the Haisla people, but all the people in the northern area, the government actually took it on themselves to do that. So what ended up happening was Eric Bota, the health manager, and David McAdams, who took the lead for this pandemic for our community, coordinated with Northern Health leaders and identified the equipment that would be used for life-saving measures. So that money is going to good use, and I'm really proud that the Haisla Nation did that, because I don't know, that's just amazing. It's just something that we have never ever had the opportunity to do before, especially when we know, you might not know it, but we've actually had a few situations here where we were not sure if we actually had incidences of COVID here, and people have had to have testing. So it's been unsettling, but knowing that at least if they were to be, because we only have those facilities, Fort St. John's and Prince George and Terrace, where you would go if you became severely ill. So we are fortunate that some of these items, life-saving equipment, have been identified for specifically for Mills Memorial Hospital and for Kitimat General Hospital. So thank you to David and to Eric and to Haisla Nation Council for doing just what was needed at the time, and hopefully we don't even have to take a look at those equipment.
I think during that call also, there was questions regarding the testing and the amount of time it took to get a response from the test. It took how many weeks?
10 days.
But now they have one in Terrace.
What happened because of the testing, normally when you have any type of testing that has to go to Vancouver, it would take 2 to 3 days. But because of the influx and the amount of testing that is required for COVID, it went up to 10 days, which was quite scary, because we already know that if somebody becomes ill with COVID, that you have 5 days, 10 days before you're extremely ill and you need life-saving measures. So now they had opened up Langley Hospital for testing, but now we have testing happening in Terrace, so that the results in the lab are being done there. So the turnaround is now going to be 2 days, 3 days maybe maximum, which is amazing, which is That's time is life.
And I'm definitely on top of that, definitely proud that we were able to contribute to having what could be life-saving measures put in place, and to be able to contribute to our community and directly directly impact our community at such a level that we have. I'm definitely again very appreciative that we had the support and the ability as a nation to be able to contribute to the safety of our communities in that manner. When we're talking about the partnership aspect and being able to have these types of relationships where our nation is in such a great position to have existing relationships, I just wanted to mention and give credit to our joint venture partners, Secure Guard and Servco, that helped contribute to the restricted access point as well by providing the employment piece around having one of the security guards that are employed by Secure Guard, and also for the safety aspect of those employees when it comes to the comfort level that was provided at that space in such a short amount of time. Working with our partners of having, they had MK as the point of going to use a bathroom, and within our partnerships that we've had, Servco was able to provide us with the porta potties that would ensure that there was not a long distance between where one employee would be left alone for a certain amount of time. And these all contribute to safety factors and comfort levels and those relationships during this time. Definitely grateful for our partnerships and them being able to contribute to the safety of our community.
Question. Jason.
So another question about Microsoft Teams, and can this be used for Haisla language? Kaylee?
So the culture and language team has been sampling both Microsoft Teams and Zoom to see what would work best for the Haisla language lessons. So it will be used, we just don't know which one. And we are working on lesson plans right now for the language lessons at a beginner level, and then we'll work our way up. And this will help support both the Haisla Kala Vancouver group and anyone living anywhere, so you don't need to be living in Kitimat or Kitimat Village to attend the language lessons. And then just on a side note, as an update for one of the projects we're working on, is we had a MOU signed in 2018 with First Nations Education Foundation. And they've just received enough funding now to start a rapid recording project for our fluent speakers to start recording them speaking the language and telling stories. So we'll be starting that work in the next couple of months. So I know that's been a big concern during this. So I just wanted to give a quick update on that, and we'll do an official press release probably within the next week on that. But to answer the question, yes, we are going to use some type of platform. We want to make sure it is secure and that it is for Haisla members or their families to go on, not just for everyone to view. So we will be comparing Teams and Zoom. So yes.
Sorry, we went on. I didn't accidentally. I put us on mute so that you wouldn't hear the wrestling in the background. And our computer froze, so my apologies. Thank you, Kaylee.
Awesome.
Are there any other questions?
I actually have a comment about if you're going to be having a Haisla speaker working from a platform, it would be really good to have a proper microphone for her to speak into. Because otherwise, if you use a laptop microphone, it'll be hard to hear the enunciation of of her pronunciation of some of the words. So I just recommend getting a good quality microphone or something for her to speak into. Thanks.
Any other questions? Pam, you receiving any more? Jason? No?
No questions from my screen.
All right, if that's it, if nobody else has anything, do you
want to talk about your phase one? Or did you talk about your phase one?
the opening? Oh, so one important note in terms of the phases that the province is abiding by in their phase 2 and opening up the province for economic and opening provincial parks. In accordance with that, the pandemic team decided last Friday that we would start opening up the restricted access point to Haisla members that were non-locals, and also to our staff members and their families to be able to come into our community to see family members, of course, abiding by the social distancing recommendations, and to access the trails that we have in our community. And I also did a live update notifying our community and gave a huge congratulations to Mike Jacobs and his team, and also to Kevin Smith, who is the lead contractor on that project, for our new boardwalk and access to our breakwater, which I'm seeing so many beautiful pictures of on Facebook. So huge congratulations to Mike and your team on the completion of that portion. So the point of opening up to non-residents and that are Haisla members is to have that ability to come into the community, to ensure that we're always looking out for our mental health and our well-being, whether it be you take your family down the beach to explore, but time out of the house and potentially the time to come and see familiar faces in our community, which is our family and our friends. Also a part of the phase 1, I am personally thankful that we are now having our gym weight room accessible again to our community members. Thank you to Adrian and his team and the health center, Eric, working to be able to help open that facility in a manner that's where we're still abiding by all the recommendations to ensure that our members are being safe. To access, if you're a Haisla member, would like to access and utilize the weight room or the cardio room, I would recommend contacting Adrian, and there's an online booking that and process that you have to go through in order to use that facility. That's about it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a part of essentially what we would refer to as a phase 1 of what our community is in at this stage. Anything else?
And also, Nikki is going to talk to some elders. Those things will be taking place very soon, probably tomorrow or the day after. We've got some elders now step forward to talk. So they will be interviewed either at the health center or at their homes, and they will also be channeling their questions and so on, so that we can answer them. Perfect.
So as a part of this pandemic team, we were talking about the documentation. Lucille's been in contact with many of our elders in regards to the past pandemics that they had potentially experienced, and what they remember from being probably children going through a situation that we're experiencing right now. And we've, along with Tracy's restricted access video, which is out and available for members to view in regards to what the process is when coming in and leaving our community. We will also be doing a documentation where we will be interviewing elders that would speak about what they remember from if they experienced a pandemic prior, but also talking about this pandemic. So, and then we will also be inclusive of children within that process as well. So Sonia, I'll let you touch on that portion if you'd like.
I don't see anything up here to respond to. I'm sorry.
So it's just having the organization of one of your class being participating within that documentation that Lee Wilson will be putting together.
Yes, we're working with some of our families in just also doing two things, preparing our children and families for the date when they come return to school, and just practice and using our children as educators and teaching our members about social distancing, social isolation. So we're working with Lucille, Lee, and on that video project.
Thank you, Sonia. And another important thank you, Eric, for your contribution to that. Another portion that we forgot to mention was we have signed and council approved last week an MOU between Haisla Nation Council and the Giawi Club Healing Center in regards to the usage of that center and that facility through this pandemic. So I wanted to make mention of that relationship as being a part of our planning if we were to have a positive test of COVID in our community.
Can I just do a quick thing? I just want to say too, I think, without mentioning names for those of you who are listening, but you have people working in the finance department who are keeping us on track with the budget, forever pulling us together and directing us as to where this pot of money is going to come from, where that pot of money is going to come from. Then running to Terrace to get the hand sanitizer, like big jugs, gallons of it. Like people are pulling themselves in other directions. Then you have the other one who's doing the video clipping of our checkpoint. You know, they're coming forward and having these creative ways to educate, and then wanting to work with Lee for the documentary. And then you have the ones from the table, council table, who too are helping to guide and direct administration. And then we have the administration staff themselves who are working closely with the joint venture companies, and even Northern Health Authority is keeping track of us by tapping in with us every week. Then we have somebody there who's making face masks for all the staff, like hours and hours, and how many meters and yards of fabric that's been cut and snipped and elastics found to create them. Then you have the other ones who are out there making sure that the kids are getting onto Zoom and checking in, and why some of the kids aren't accessing Zoom for their education. And then you have our communications person, man, well, there's 3 of them, but we got the one, we just got him flipping all over the place, and he's just doing an amazing job. Thank you very much. And then we have our lead for the pandemic, and thank God he just fell from the sky, and just, I think not even how many days on the ground here, and we had him running, and he pulled us all together with the very first risk of possible COVID and directing us immediately. I was so impressed. And then of course, then we have our one there too at the top there, who's helping with all the policies and whatnot, and throwing it all together like it's no big deal to her. It's amazing when you see that happening as well. And amidst all this, somehow our fisheries department still is going out there and doing their thing out there on the water, and still bringing in herring eggs in the next, well, today, I guess, and then for tomorrow. But then there's all those other people out there. I don't know how health is doing down there, and all those supplies that are being stockpiled down there. We have a lot of stock down there, but still it's kind of scary if we do get a case. We just hope we have enough. Oh, and yes, and we have the other one who's keeping us on our agenda when it comes to our meetings, how she pulls us together when we're all gabbing about something else totally off track and bringing us right back to what the agenda is actually about, and that's discussing the pandemic and keeping our community safe. I know there's a lot of other people out there, like from the Works Department too. Thank God for them. They keep our world going round and round. Thank you.
I will add that the health department is a great resource. For example, I came here with this thing, we to look at Lucy's place. That is also a big file over there. I have 3 of these information that we are accumulating over and over. If you have any questions whatsoever, please contact the health department. Not all questions might be asked today, but tomorrow you may have a question. Come over to us, call us, and we will be able to answer your questions. And if you are not, we will be able to direct you to where you can get the right response for your questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Luke. All right, if there's nothing else and nothing else from participants online. Oh, so Eric had mentioned that the health center was a great resource in terms of information and accessibility. So if you don't have questions that you that you want to ask now, please feel free to call the health center or email either Eric or Lucille with your concerns and your questions. That's essentially what Eric's message was. And if there's nothing else, just some announcements. And Lucille referred to Harry and Eggs. If you haven't seen on Facebook or our website, our nation is fortunate enough to distribute some Harry and Eggs that we'll be receiving tomorrow morning. So not only will be going door to door here in the village, in the community, but we will also, I'm so excited to say that for a long time, the focus of council was to start addressing and start providing our membership that are non-local members the same programs and services that we offer to our on reserve. And I'm excited to venture in this direction, that we will be distributing door to door in the town of Kitimat tomorrow. So please look out for the notices, notify your family. I believe our point of contact was Cameron Orr around information regarding the Harry and Egg distribution. But I'm excited to venture into this new service that we're going to be embarking on tomorrow. But again, in that same message of the excitement, please have patience, as this is the first time that we are going to be doing this. So it is going to be new to us, and there'll be things that we'll have to work out. And as time continues on and these opportunities that the nation is able to distribute our soul food to our people, we will get better. In line with that, we are setting aside some traditional foods so that we have something as a nation to look forward to and to focus on. Would be once permitted by the province health, Dr. Bonnie Henry, that we will be hosting a feast for the nation to get together. And what we are hoping to provide is all of our traditional foods. So a portion of that Harry and Eggs will be kept for that feast that we are looking forward to hosting once we're permitted to do so. With that,
Are you closing now?
are you?
I just want to thank the members who participated tonight. I want to thank them for participating tonight. Your input is very important to us. If you have questions, like Eric said, ask Eric. Just kidding. Ask any of us.
We'll get Cam to post his email and his phone number online for you guys after.
Just have to remember, we're still in this. We're all in this together, as the saying goes. So, and we're always going to be there for our members no matter what. We're doing our best to make them safe. Everything we're doing, our staff here, is for our members' safety and our children, our elders especially, and all of us collectively. When this all started, I thought back with the old epidemics right away. The old grave, I go there all the time. Graveyard behind Grace's house. That reminds us, hey, it killed a lot of our people back then, and we don't want to go through that again. That's what this team is here for. But I just want to echo what I started off with. I want to thank the whole team for their participation and input. You guys all did a very excellent job as far as I'm concerned. Sure, like I said, we made mistakes, but that's all part of this. This is new to us. And I think we're going to get through this together despite those mistakes. Thanks again, everybody. Wow.
All right, if there's no other comments, again, you know, I want to say an extreme thank you to our central services who came in, provided those necessary, and continue to make our community run efficiently as Public Works, our health center, and our finance department. And without your guys' services, our community could not function. And I truly believe that with our entire administration deserves the respect that and the commendments that I speak about, and that is truly a heartfelt gratitude. It is you that fulfill the work on behalf of our nation and are on the front line. So my appreciation to each of you, Tony, Sherry, Andrew, your contribution to this team. I wish you guys could have been here tonight. If I forgot anybody off of that isn't present here with us or online, please forgive me. But I could not go without making mention of those three and their contribution to this team and to where we're at today. Again, thank you to our membership that decided to join us on this adventure of technology and how we can be here, be present for you to address for your concerns. We look forward to having these types of updates as we progress through these interesting times. So thank you to our management team that was present and with us tonight as well. I hope you guys all have a good night, and please take care of one another. Stay healthy, stay safe, and good night.